Okay, we're playing detective again. We're going to start looking at a code pen done by Roflo Flores. It looks like a real draft idea for some animation using Greensock, which is really exciting. I thought it'd be quite fun to just dig through what it is and how it works. So basically you've got your Godzilla here, this cool old-fashioned text, and you've got this pencil drawing, and as you scroll sideways, begins to walk. The letters jump out in a really cool way. He goes up the hill, past the towers. Just really fun. There's also that kind of nice old styley film crackle you can see on the images. He goes up the hill, comes back down, so he kind of scales up and down there. It's really fun. It's light on CSS because it really just defines a few basic elements on the page, because most of the work is being done in JavaScript, obviously using the Greensock properties to render elements, pass them, and also add all their animatable properties. Let's just take a walk through this. So we've got some definitions here. The onload sets up timeline, set the container. So here you're passing some basic CSS values here. This is the width, the height. We're going to work it off the window. Set where the edges of everything are. Because it's a scroll-based animation, you kind of need to know those dimensions, I guess. Set the position, the starting positions of all the text elements on the page with just hard-coded XY values there. Set container opacity 1, ease, and then I guess that Greensock would give you these nice pre-built animations that you can reference and leverage those effects. And there's also an on resize that's going to have to recalculate those things. So here, even for something simple as the clouds, which I go through, yeah, you've got these clouds. Each one has kind of got its X and Y positions defined in an array. And then for each one, there's building a div element, setting all those attributes on it, passing it the dynamic left and top values. And then, interestingly, you're choosing the background image from an asset. I see. So there's a drawing with these clouds, and I guess you can just chop from any one of those. It will just reference that one image, and then you just sort of take the relevant one. Because it's a drawing, because it's a JPEG, you can't kind of do some clever SVG and just grab the snippet you want. This is kind of that old-fashioned sprite sheet idea that you used to get, with all your icons would be on one big file and you just find the relevant background position for what you need. So it's quite a cool way of doing it here, to just bring your drawings onto the page and overlay them as you need. Append a bit, make the title characters. So here, let's have a look at this image. Godzilla cars. Okay, so those are just the letters. Again, I guess you can cut and you can snip down the ones you need. For each one, the last two sit behind the rest. You're creating an individual div and appending those to the title. Scroll trigger. So this is a fairly newish Greensock property that lets you kind of tag onto the scrolling of an element, and it means that at different points you can trigger things, or you can make things move to certain positions. From what I've basically understood, it's incredibly extendable and has so many options to let you vary things. So here we've got a horizontal, start, end position, toggle actions for on enter, on leave, come back. So it works in that obviously it plays one way when you scroll, and then if you reverse it goes back the other way. That's a reverse aspect. Title characters, scale, stagger. So I guess that those title characters up here, each letter was defined with a class of title car, and then down here you can set with a stagger on them that they'll all have a an animation that will just be staggered. So rather than having to manually set each character in line to do something, you can just set a combination and tell them all to have a slight offset, and they'll all just stagger down, meaning that all the letters will fade out slowly in time as you go. That's really interesting. Interesting here on the timeline, on the scroll trigger, there's an on update function, and here we're referencing the S to get S dot direction. So you can actually, even in a scroll, the animation is able to give you the direction in which the user's scrolling, which for something like this is vital. You need to know to turn the Godzilla in the different directions. It's fantastic. He's walking along a motion path, walk path. So we have to look for that. Walk path here is, so basically what he's walking along is an SVG line, and it means you can just attach an element to that and it'll know to just follow along. So that means it's how it's able to go up the hill and down the mountains and everything. You can also then set a scale at different points. So again, when he gets up the mountain, scale down, he gets far away and come back again. And all these you can just trigger at certain points from along the way. Here's the text being told to fade in at certain trigger points, I guess when it comes into view. Here is the walk sequence. Use that from to walk X, Y, E's, step 7. So I would guess this is a step animation. So lots of CSS animations kind of can work from transition from this to this, so this font size to this size, or this color to this color. But you can also basically say, rather than slowly going from this up, like fading in between, you can just say do this, then this, then this, then this. You can kind of stagger that animation, which is perfect for something like a stop frame animation, where you don't want to sort of slowly show one image changing over to the next image. You just want to show a series of images in sequence, and the old traditional animation effect. So I would guess it's this one here. Yeah, so there's your slowly drawn frames of a walking sequence, and you can just set, in 7 steps I want to complete this animation of transitioning the background image to slide through these on a loop, so it will just create the effect of an animation. I mean, there's helpfully lots of comments here, so I can piece through what's going on. But we can work out the walking direction, flick Godzilla when scrolling upwards, dust and scratches. So it's quite nice to see there's this kind of effect going on here. It looks like it builds 8 different elements on the page, and then on a timeline, so again gradually running through each of those, you just give them an X and Y that's completely random, a rotation, scale, opacity that's random, so there is just going to be a constant drawing of these elements, putting them on the page, making them appear for fragments of a second, so you just create that kind of dusty grain effect. It's fantastic. And I guess because it's triggered once here, can't select this, it's triggered once here, but then on complete it's triggered again, so you've just created an endless recursive. Easter eggs. So on click, open mouth if stopped, and mouth isn't already open. I can click, he'll open his mouth. And if the target class list contains breakable, then we will trigger debris animation. I click. Oh, how exciting. I can come to the temple. Oh, this is amazing. I can come here and just slowly destroy buildings in sync with a mouth animation. That's a nice little thing to spot if you play around. Cool. So that's a really rough kind of run through of a really cool piece of work. I guess with Greensock and any kind of JS library that kind of defines properties and animations, there's always a hesitancy from my side that you're putting CSS in multiple places. There'd be CSS properties on something, you're not sure where they're defined, because you're now defining some in the regular CSS file, some in libraries, and then these are going to vary and change. But that's actually incredibly readable, and something like this where it's almost entirely about animation. It's really easy to see what's happening in sequence where, and things like the scroll trigger are able to trigger events based on where you're scrolling. For something like this, it's absolutely perfect. Just really cool piece of work. It's nice to see something that's hand drawn, because everything these days has to be material and no shadows and no texture whatsoever. So it's quite nice to see some variation. That's all for today though. Go have a lovely day.